So it's now been about a year since the Democratic Party primaries and about 7 months since the general election. And here we are still trying to relitigate the situation and retrace our steps and figure out how it was the case that Donald Trump was electorally successful over everyone else. Now, if you're an establishment hack like Neera Tanden, then you are going to place blame on Jill Stein. And to be fair to Neera, she's not the only one that's doing this, because Politico actually released a long hit piece on Jill Stein titled, "Jill Stein Isn't Sorry." And I've even seen progressives jump on the Bash Jill bandwagon. And as a result, I feel as though I'm still having to defend why I decided to vote for Jill Stein in my deep blue state. So I went back and I watched the video, basically where I made the case for why, as a progressive, I'm voting for Jill Stein, and I think that my rationale was perfectly reasonable. It was strategically sound, and furthermore, I think that I was extra kind to Hillary Clinton supporters, and I said, look, if you don't want to vote for Jill Stein and you want to vote for Hillary Clinton, I can completely understand that. And basically everything I said still stands, but yet here I am finding myself a year later making the same argument all the time. So what I decided to do was just play the clip where I uploaded a video explaining the reasons why I voted for Jill Stein instead of Hillary Clinton in my blue state and why I thought that was important. So feel free to take a look and share it if you agree and you're having to defend yourself like I am.
I don't speak for everyone, but this is just me, and I think that the points that I'll make will resonate with a lot of people. So with that being said, I will talk about why I support Jill Stein in light of 3 common criticisms that I see. So one is that they contend Jill Stein will never win, so why vote for her? Second of all, many argue that a vote for Jill Stein equals a vote for Trump. And finally, they say that third parties lead to Republican presidencies. That's kind of related to that last point, but I'll address that separately as well. Now, as for the first criticism, they contend that Jill Stein will never win. She has a 0% chance of winning, and they think that we're naive enough to not actually see the writing on the wall. Look, as someone who's actually studied electoral engineering, I'm the first one to admit that our majoritarian electoral system is completely unfair. It makes it very, very difficult for third-party candidates to ever win. So I get that. It's called Duverger's Law. When you live in a majoritarian, winner-take-all, first-past-the-post system, whatever you want to call it, when you live in a system where the winner will win it all and the loser gets nothing, no representation, well then you most likely will have 2 parties. If you live in a proportional representation system, then you're probably going to have more than 2 parties, but there are other variables such as the electoral formula, that is how you determine, the seats that will be attributed to people based on their percentage. There's also the electoral threshold, which is the percentage that you need to win to secure any seats in the legislature. There is, social cleavages that also determine the number of political parties in a country. So there's a lot that goes into it. So by voting for Jill Stein or Gary Johnson, many of us don't actually expect a political upset by a third-party candidate. It's not impossible, but it's highly improbable. But in spite of that fact, here's why I'm still gonna vote for Jill Stein. One is that I just legitimately agree with her more than any other candidate in the race. And second of all, I'm hoping that my vote for the Green Party will help them obtain a high enough percentage so that way they can actually secure federal funding and build a real national party. I want the Green Party to make a real commitment to electoral reform, but with that being said, they've got to put in the work. They've got to run candidates at the local level, at the state level. They've really got to make an effort to convince us that they will fight for electoral reform, because that would make them a lot more appealing. Now, finally, the reason why I'm voting for Jill Stein is because my vote for her counts as a protest vote. My vote communicates to the Democratic Party that I do not give them permission to use and abuse me. They don't get to put forth a conservative candidate in what's supposed to be a liberal party and then try to rig it in her favor and then still expect me to vote for her. So I'm telling the party that they don't get my vote every election no matter what. I don't care how scary the Republican candidate is. Yes, you can even put forth a maniac like Donald Trump and you still have to earn my vote. It's not just a given every election cycle. Now also, the more votes that the Green Party gets, the more that the Democratic Party will have to wake up and realize that this party, who is a third party, even if they can't win, they're still taking votes from you, and they're going to force the Democratic Party to move back to the left, because right now, as the Republican Party moves further to the right, the Democratic Party is now moving further to the right to make up ground. But the more votes that the Green Party receives, well, that's going to actually pull them back. The higher the vote count, the larger the vote percentage that Jill Stein receives, that's going to act like a force of gravity and pull them back to the left where they actually should be. Now, when it comes to the second argument that a vote for Jill Stein is akin to voting for Donald Trump, that's patently false. In fact, a vote for Jill Stein is quite literally a vote for Jill Stein. And furthermore, here's what I dislike about this argument. This is the argument that we were making, so you don't get to make this. We were telling you during the primaries a vote for Hillary Clinton is a vote for Donald Trump because we're not going to vote for Hillary Clinton if she's the nominee. So this is your doing right here. So you don't get to tell us that a vote for Jill Stein is a vote for Donald Trump. That's bullshit. See, for me, I live in a deep blue state. So a vote for Donald Trump effectively isn't even a vote for Donald Trump because Hillary Clinton will get 100% of the electoral votes in my state of Oregon. So even if I did vote for Donald Trump, it really wouldn't make a difference in the grand scheme of things. So my strategy is to vote for Jill Stein in hopes that this will help the Green Party secure enough to get federal funding. Now, of course, there's nuance to it. In a swing state, if you really do hate Donald Trump and want to prevent him from winning, or if you hate Hillary Clinton and you want to prevent her from winning, then you may actually see it in your best interest to not vote third party and to vote for the person who you may not like the most, but who you think has the best chance at beating the person who you dislike the most. So it's just strategic here. I would probably reconsider my vote for a third party candidate if I did live in a swing state. I may actually vote for Hillary Clinton, even though the thought of that literally makes me nauseous. I would vote for her just to prevent Donald Trump from winning, because even though they're both very dangerous candidates, I think that she's maybe a little bit less dangerous. But at the same time, I don't know what I would do, and that's not a decision that I have to make. See, my job is not to guilt you into voting for the lesser of two evils if you live in a swing state. My job is to present the facts to you and be objective and allow you to make your own decision, because you're an adult, you're smart. If you're watching this podcast, you probably are subscribed to the Young Turks, Secular Talk, David Pakman, Benjamin Dixon, Tim Black, Debbie Lasignan. So you probably are pretty politically savvy anyway, so why should I come out here and berate you about who you should vote for? Vote for Jill Stein, vote for Hillary Clinton, vote for Donald Trump. I don't give a shit. Okay? The thing that I'm doing is I'm telling you who I'm voting for. I'm being honest and upfront with you. And then I'm saying, here are the facts about all of them. Make your own decision. Now, the final argument related to that last argument is that if you vote for a third-party candidate, you're helping Republicans win the White House. Many people are afraid to vote third party because of this reason, but this year, you actually have a spoiler on both sides. So if votes are split equally, that possibility is less likely. And also, you can't blame anybody for not supporting the Democratic Party. You have to blame the Democratic Party themselves. Everyone points to the 2000 election as the go-to example since people voted for Nader and then we got a President Bush. People like to conveniently ignore the fact that thousands and thousands of Democrats actually flipped and voted for George Bush. And second, you have to blame Al Gore for running a shitty campaign and picking a horrible VP. He chose Joe Lieberman as his running mate. You can't blame voters for that. And finally, the Supreme Court is the one that decided that election. Al Gore won. When they did the recount in Florida, Al Gore won. So you could blame the Supreme Court. You can't blame third-party candidates. You have to blame the Democratic Party for not inspiring enough people. Al Gore was not a great candidate. Let's be honest. Bill Clinton was not a good president, and his VP certainly didn't make a good candidate. So I'm sorry, but you have to blame the Democrats. If you blame voters for going to a third-party candidate, it's like you're blaming the victim. I'm sorry, but they're anti-establishment because the establishment wasn't working out for them. That's not their fault. But still, that doesn't mean that many Bernie Sanders supporters won't actually support Hillary Clinton. And I don't judge them. I don't criticize them, because if you do live in a swing state, then yeah, you may actually be afraid of Donald Trump and want to put your eggs in the basket that you think has the best chance of winning. And unfortunately, that's Hillary Clinton. I'm not going to judge you for that at all. I'm not going to judge anyone for making the decision that they're making. Although I will say, there's a caveat to that. I don't support anyone voting for Donald Trump. I disagree with that 100%. I think there's no strategy to it. And I think that Donald Trump is the antithesis of what Bernie Sanders represented. So if you are a Bernie Sanders supporter, then I don't understand that. Now, here's the most important reason why we're supporting Jill Stein and not Hillary Clinton. We feel as though we're giving the Democratic Party a mandate to put forward no matter what conservative candidate they want to offer, someone who is just going to fall in line and support their donors. And we're giving them a mandate to do this, and we don't want to do this. We don't want to give the Democratic Party permission to put forth anyone. We want to actually tell them that we have control. We want to maintain leverage against the Democratic Party and say, if you run any further to the right, you lose us. So by voting for Jill Stein, we're drawing a line. That's that. And we're going to prove it to them that this is the case by voting for Jill Stein. So a vote for Jill Stein is a vote for her because we legitimately side with her on a majority of the issues. And it's also a strategic protest vote. We want to bring the Democratic Party back. Will they listen to us? I don't know. But I'm still going to vote for Jill Stein. Now, again, I don't speak for everyone, but this is my reasoning, and I think that many people can probably agree with it. Now, with that being said, is Donald Trump a scary candidate? Absolutely. I'm not trying to downplay how scary Donald Trump is, but the fact that Donald Trump is a maniac doesn't make Hillary Clinton any more appealing, and it doesn't negate from the fact that Hillary Clinton is also a dangerous candidate. I mean, her Syrian no-fly zone is an example. When asked about her Syrian no-fly zone during a debate and what she would do if Vladimir Putin violated that, she said, well, I don't think it would come to that. Okay, so we have a candidate that could potentially spark World War III. In Hillary Clinton. We have a candidate in Donald Trump that potentially wants to use nuclear weapons against ISIS and bring back torture. I mean, both are dangerous. So the fact that Donald Trump is probably a little bit more dangerous than Hillary Clinton, it doesn't make her any more appealing. It doesn't make me want to support her. So you're more than welcome to disagree with my reasoning, and I encourage dialogue on this issue. But that's why I'm voting for Jill Stein. I'm not going to judge anyone if you choose not to vote for Jill Stein. If you choose to fall in line, I'm not going to judge anyone. Okay, that's my decision. If you choose to vote for Gary Johnson, cool. We all have to come to our own decision, but what I'm going to do as a YouTube host is just continue to share the facts in a manner that I think is objective and let you know and be upfront about the fact that I am supporting Jill Stein.
Support this podcast by joining the independent progressive media revolution today at humanistreport.com.